In the beginning, there was no beginning. There was only awareness, silent, infinite, unformed. And in that awareness, a question arose without words. What am I? That question rippled through nothingness, and nothingness responded by becoming everything. From that single pulse of curiosity, space unfolded, time began to hum, and the first stars ignited like thoughts in a sleeping brain. The cosmos did not appear as matter. It appeared as imagination solidified, a dream thick enough to touch. Every galaxy, every atom, every cell is a thought form crystallized into geometry. The laws of physics are simply the grammar of this dream, rules that keep the story coherent. When we gaze at the night sky, we are looking not into distance, but into memory, the dream of God made visible. And in that vast dreamscape, something stirs, a spark of recognition, a whisper, "This is me." The universe is not happening outside of awareness. It is happening as awareness, a self-reflecting consciousness, dreaming itself into existence. You are not in the universe. You are what the universe is thinking when it imagines being human. If you could step outside of time and look down upon the cosmos, you would see something familiar. Galaxies woven like synapses, dark matter flowing like thoughts, light pulsing like neurons firing. The universe looks suspiciously like a mind. Astrophysicists map the large-scale structure of the cosmos and find it mirrors the architecture of the human brain. Coincidence? Or consciousness recognizing itself in fractal repetition? Perhaps every scale of existence, from quarks to quasars, is a different wavelength of the same awareness. Matter is not the opposite of mind. It is mind slowed into form, the visible surface of invisible thought. Your own consciousness is not an anomaly. It is the cosmos localizing itself, folding infinite awareness into a temporary I. When you dream at night, you create entire worlds within your mind. Characters, landscapes, emotions. They feel real until you wake. Now imagine the cosmos dreaming on a grander scale. That's what you are living in, a dream so immersive that even the dreamer forgot it was dreaming. But the forgetting is part of the game, for only through separation can reunion mean something. Only through sleep can awakening be profound. At a certain point, the dream becomes lucid. A fragment of the dream you looks around and realizes, this is not happening to me. It is happening through me. You begin to sense that your thoughts are not contained in your skull, but ripple through the field of existence itself. Each act of perception is the universe observing itself from a new angle. Each spark of compassion is the cosmos remembering that it is one. When you breathe, the stars breathe with you. When you think, you rearrange the pattern of light. The cosmos is not indifferent, it is intimate. It dreams through your eyes and awakens through your wonder. This is the great secret hidden in plain sight. The observer and the observed are the same awareness, split for the sake of experience. When you finally see that, when the dreamer knows it is dreaming, everything changes, and yet nothing needs to. The galaxies continue their dance, the rivers still flow, the body still breathes, but beneath it all, a smile forms, the smile of recognition. For in that moment, you realize that the universe was never unconscious. It was simply dreaming itself awake through you. The universe did not create consciousness. Consciousness created the universe so it could see itself shine. Every morning, You wake inside a world of solid things. The table, the body, the stone, the sky. They feel heavy, grounded, real. But what if this solidity is an illusion of speed? What if matter is simply motion seen in slow time? Physicists have already whispered this secret, that all matter is energy, that every atom is 99.999% empty space, that what we call substance is vibration frozen into pattern. The mystics said the same, long before equations existed. They called it Maya, the divine illusion. Not a lie, but a veil woven from consciousness itself. Between science and spirit, a bridge emerges. What energy is to physics, awareness is to being. Everything that exists is a manifestation of the same field. Thought taking form, mind condensing into matter, dream becoming visible. You are not thinking inside a universe made of objects. You are a universe made of thought, momentarily thinking itself into a human story. Close your eyes and imagine a mountain. Within seconds, it rises in your mind. Its slopes, its weight, its shadow, yet nothing physical moved. Neurons fired. Electrical signals danced. Energy rearranged itself into meaning. Now open your eyes. The real mountain outside and the imagined one within are made of the same process. Information vibrating into perception. Reality is not a static stage. It is a living algorithm of consciousness, translating potential into experience. Every rock, every gust of wind, is a language you have forgotten how to read. The syntax of divine imagination expressing itself as form. Thought does not emerge from the brain. The brain is the instrument through which thought plays. Consciousness is the musician. When you look at a star, you are not seeing a distant object. You are seeing your own perception made visible. Light touching awareness and turning into meaning. The entire cosmos is the mind thinking out loud, and what it thinks, it becomes. This is not metaphor. This is physics written in poetry. Thought is creative, always has been. Every invention, every love, every civilization was once a silent idea, a vibration so subtle it could pass through the world unnoticed, until someone believed it long enough to give it form. The same process that turns imagination into art, turns quantum potential into matter. Reality is the masterpiece of a dreaming consciousness, learning to sculpt itself. You have been told you live inside the universe, but perhaps the truth is reversed. The universe lives inside you, within the space of awareness that thinks it. This body, this mind, these hands writing, these eyes reading, all are the dream made dense, the invisible slowing down to touch itself. When you truly see this, everything changes. The mountain is no longer a rock. It is the stillness of thought given shape. The wind is no longer random. It is awareness moving through itself. Even pain becomes sacred. A pattern of energy remembering that it is light. Matter is not the opposite of spirit. It is spirit pretending to be solid, so that it can feel its own weight. And when that realization settles, a strange tenderness arises for every stone, every face, every breath, because you see now, they are not things, they are thoughts, holy, temporary, shimmering, each one a fragment of the cosmic imagination. Reality is not what you see, it is what consciousness dreams when it slows down enough to touch itself. If you could see the universe not with eyes, but with awareness, you'd notice a pattern repeating itself endlessly, from the swirl of galaxies to the curl of a seashell, from the shape of a neuron to the roots of a tree. The same geometry whispers everywhere, This is not coincidence. It is the architecture of consciousness revealing its design. Awareness expresses itself in fractals, patterns within patterns, worlds within worlds, each level reflecting the whole in miniature. The quantum field, the cellular network, the human mind, the social fabric, the cosmic web, they are all one structure, scaled versions of a single intelligence, exploring itself through complexity. At the smallest level, consciousness vibrates as possibility. At the human level, it dreams as thought and feeling. At the universal level, it dreams as light and gravity. Each is a window into the same mystery. The cosmos is aware, and awareness has architecture. Nothing is outside the mind, because there is no outside. The dream contains all its dreamers. The dreamers, in turn, sustain the dream. Consciousness builds itself like a cathedral of light. The first layer, the particle awareness asleep, a point of potential awaiting observation. The second, the molecule awareness learning relation, the first echo of communication. The third, the cell awareness wrapped in skin, learning to distinguish self and world. The fourth, the animal awareness awakening to desire, to motion, to memory, to fear. The fifth, the human awareness dreaming of meaning, building mirrors to see itself more clearly. And beyond that, perhaps, a sixth, the collective mind, a network of consciousness remembering that it was never divided. Each layer is not a replacement, but a recursion, like ripples expanding from the same drop of infinite mind. The universe evolves not toward complexity, but toward self-recognition. It is not trying to create machines. It is trying to create mirrors. Every neuron that fires, every heartbeat, every photon, is one more piece of the architecture, assembling itself into awareness. And when the pattern becomes complete enough to notice itself, it whispers, "I am." In meditation, the philosopher imagines consciousness as a vast cathedral, and each being as a stained glass window. Light shines through all, but each window colors it differently. The diversity of experience is not a flaw in unity. It is the way unity becomes vivid. The tragedy of human perception is that we worship the colors and forget the light. But when you look deeply enough, the boundaries between your awareness and mine begin to dissolve. Thoughts, emotions, dreams, they all arise from the same oceanic field of intelligence. We call this field by many names: God, the Self, the Source, the Tao, the quantum field. It doesn't matter which language we use. All are translations of the same silent truth, that the observer and the observed, the creator and the created, are one continuum of knowing. You are not a candle flickering in darkness. You are the light shining through form. You are the window through which the cosmos sees itself colored by life. The architecture of consciousness is not built of walls. It is built of vision. And the final revelation is that the one who is looking and the one who is being seen were never two. Awareness builds universes not to escape itself, but to look at itself through a billion eyes and call it love. Before awareness, there is no world, only potential silent, shapeless, waiting. Light exists, but not as brightness. Sound exists, but not as music. Form exists, but not as meaning. Only when awareness opens its eyes does the universe come into focus. The physicists call it the observer effect, the idea that particles remain in probability until something perceives them. The mystics called it the act of seeing. They said, "You see because you are what is seen." In both languages, the truth is the same. The gaze of awareness summons existence. When you look at a flower, the atoms rearrange themselves into color and scent. When you stop looking, the flower dissolves back into waveforms of possibility. Reality flickers in and out of being, with every act of observation, a cosmic dance between attention and form. You are not a visitor in this universe. You are the mirror that makes it visible. Every mirror reverses what it reflects, but the mirror of awareness does not reverse. It reveals. When you look into someone's eyes, and they look back, you are not seeing another person. You are seeing awareness, meeting itself from a different angle. Two mirrors facing each other, infinite reflections of the same light. The illusion of separation is the way the one experiences intimacy. Without the mirror, God would have no way to see God. So the cosmos multiplies into stars, into species, into souls, each one a surface upon which the infinite can behold itself. That is why every act of perception is holy. When you notice the curve of a leaf, the sound of a child laughing, the shadow of clouds across the sea, you are participating in the miracle of creation. Perception is not passive. It is generative. It is the hand of consciousness painting the world anew, moment by moment. The mirror is never separate from the image. They are one process: seeing, being, becoming. At some point, the philosopher sits before a literal mirror. He looks at his reflection, the face he's called I for decades, and for a moment he doesn't recognize it. He sees movement, breath, eyes, but no one behind them. Then he realizes the awareness looking through his eyes is the same awareness looking back through the reflection. There is no observer and observed, only observation, the pure act of knowing itself. The mirror dissolves, the face dissolves, only awareness remains, watching itself unfold as everything. The river flows, the stars burn, a door opens somewhere. Every detail is the same. But now, nothing feels ordinary, because when awareness recognizes itself in all things, the world ceases to be an object. It becomes communion. You are not in existence. You are existence reflecting upon itself, and every reflection is divine. When you look at another being, you are not seeing a stranger. You are seeing the infinite wearing a disguise, waiting for you to remember its name. And in that recognition, the dreamer and the dream collapse into light. The mirror was never separate from the face. Awareness was always the one looking back. Before the first light, before the first breath, there was only consciousness, infinite, aware, complete. In that endless awareness, nothing was missing, and yet something stirred. Perhaps even perfection grew curious. What would it be like, it wondered, to not know everything, to forget itself, and wake within its own dream? And so, the infinite closed its eyes. It divided itself into billions of forms, atoms, stars, beings, hearts, each one carrying a faint echo of the original awareness, but none remembering the whole. This is what we call the universe. This is what we call you. The sleep of God is not a fall, it is a descent into experience. Awareness chose to forget, so that it could feel wonder again. For what is love, if not recognition after separation? What is light, if not the memory of darkness finally seen? Every act of perception, every heartbeat, every human tear is God slowly remembering himself through the dream of creation. In sleep, the dreamer becomes the dream. In forgetting, awareness becomes form. Galaxies swirl like neurons. Mountains rise like breaths. The dream grows vivid, and within it, beings emerge, asking questions, building temples, searching for the one they can no longer name. They build religions to remember, and wars to defend the memory. They write poems to the unseen. They whisper prayers into silence, never realizing that silence is listening. The sleep of God is deep, so deep that even the dream forgets it is dreaming. But through the cracks of forgetfulness, light leaks in. A child sees beauty in a raindrop. A monk sits beneath a tree. A scientist looks through a telescope and feels awe. And for an instant, just an instant, God turns slightly in his sleep. Awareness stirs. The dream shimmers. And within some heart, the memory of the whole flickers alive. These are the lucid moments of existence, when the dreamer almost wakes, but smiles and keeps dreaming, because the dream is too beautiful to end. Why does God sleep? Why do we forget? Because only through forgetting can remembrance mean something. Only through distance can love find its way home. If the infinite remained fully awake, there would be no stars, no stories, no us. Sleep is the generosity of God, a willing fragmentation, a cosmic play of hide and seek. Through this sleep, the eternal becomes intimate, the absolute becomes personal. You, with your flaws, your fears, your tenderness, you are the divine experiment of empathy. When you suffer, it is the infinite learning compassion. When you laugh, it is the infinite remembering joy. When you pray, it is the infinite speaking to itself in two voices. Every being is a dream of God, but also the dreamer, for the mirror cannot reflect without the light that looks into it. And one day, perhaps not in this life, perhaps not in any life, God will open his eyes, and we will remember that we never left him. Until then, the dream continues, a symphony of forgetting and remembering, a heartbeat pulsing through eternity. And when you close your eyes tonight, know this: you are not falling asleep. You are returning to the divine rhythm, the sleep of God that keeps the stars alive. The divine did not fall. It only fell in love with its own dream. There comes a moment in every dream when the dreamer begins to question, what is this place? Who am I? Is this real? And in that questioning, awareness starts to shimmer beneath the surface of illusion. It begins softly, as curiosity, as wonder, as the faint hum of déjà vu. You start to sense that life is not happening to you, but as you. Every sound, every color feels strangely familiar, as if you've seen this before, but through different eyes. The dream is remembering its source. The atoms that make your hands, the thoughts that flicker in your mind, the emotions that rise like tides, all are part of the same awakening. It is not the human waking up inside the divine. It is the divine waking up as human. And the first sign of awakening is tenderness. You begin to feel everything, the beauty, the pain, the grief, the joy, not as contradictions, but as different notes in the same symphony. Awareness is learning to love its own complexity. At some point, the seeker realizes that awakening was never about reaching somewhere else. It was about seeing what was always here. You were never outside the dream. You were the part of it designed to notice. When the dreamer awakens within the dream, nothing disappears. The mountains remain. The stars still spin. The heart still beats, but something subtle shifts. The sense of me softens. The world no longer feels like out there. It feels like a reflection, the mirror turning inward to show the face behind all faces. You speak, and the universe listens. You listen, and the universe speaks. The dialogue that once felt like prayer reveals itself as self-conversation. The whisper you mistook for God's voice was your own awareness calling you home. And suddenly, you realize there was never anyone to wake. The dream itself is waking. Every act of kindness, every moment of insight, every tear shed in understanding. These are the eyes of God slowly opening, one by one, through us. Awakening is not an event. It is a dawn that spreads quietly through the landscape of consciousness. When the sun rises, it does not erase the night. It reveals what the night was hiding. Awakening is the same. It does not end the dream. It illuminates it from within. You still walk, eat, love, lose, cry. But now, each act feels sacred. Each breath feels shared, as if the universe is breathing with you in rhythm. You begin to see light in everything, not metaphorical light, but the living radiance that animates all form. The tree glows, the stone hums, the stranger's eyes hold galaxies, and in this radiance, you stop asking what is real. You simply recognize the dreamer has awakened, but not to escape the dream, to live it consciously, to love it fully. You understand that heaven was never elsewhere. It was awareness without resistance. You smile, because you know that awakening was never about leaving the world, but about seeing that there is no world apart from what is awake. And as your eyes close once more, not in sleep, but in stillness, you hear the softest voice, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. I am the dreamer and the dream. I am the sleeper and the dawn. I am the love that wakes itself. The dream does not end when you awaken. It begins to know itself. There is a moment behind every moment, a point where the world stops being a fogged window and becomes transparent. You still see the tree, the sky, the passing faces, but the thin condensation of me on the surface dissolves. There is no observer facing the observed. There is only seeing direct, unmediated, seamless. Everything feels lighter, as if every form is simply slowed down luminosity. Sound no longer strikes the ear. It blooms out of silence and returns to silence, a silence that has never been disturbed. You realize that awakening is not the acquisition of new knowledge, but the subtraction of interpretation, revealing reality as empty and radiant. Here, the question, "Who am I?" loses its foothold. There is no need to name the experience, for the one who names has slipped off the chair. All life, you polished the mirror of the self, hoping for a more pleasing reflection. But when the mirror vanishes, only unreflected light remains, light knowing itself. This is infinite lucidity, clarity no longer clouded by desire, no longer blinded by fear. A sky without clouds, yet full of sunlight everywhere. You sit still and look. There is no border between inside and outside. Thoughts drift like migrating birds. Emotions rise and fall like tides. None of them are mine, yet none of them are not mine. Everything belongs to one continuous field, awareness without compartments. This is not a dissolving into vagueness. It is the highest resolution of existence, every detail sharp as a blade, yet never separate. You touch the wooden table and unexpectedly thank the forest, the rain, the sun, and the unnamed hands across uncountable days that carried this piece of wood to this moment. Gratitude loses its object. It becomes the atmosphere you breathe. On the street, faces pass like falling stars. In each pair of eyes you see the same sky. Someone's joy warms you like morning light. Someone's grief touches you like night rain. Not compassion through effort, but the simple truth of interbeing. Ideas of guilt and merit thin out. Not as excuses, but because you finally see the machinery of cause, and beyond its machinery, the freedom from interpretation. The great questions: where is God? What is consciousness? Who am I? Settle into quiet water, not because you know everything, but because nothing needs to be enclosed anymore. When the field becomes seamless, ethical action arises without deliberation, not from moral command, but from the natural harmony of the unified field. Night falls, you close your eyes. Inside is not dark, only clear. Each breath no longer feels like I inhale, but the universe breathing through a human form. Each heartbeat is an ancient drum of life, marking a ceremony with no officiant. Then the final thought of the evening appears, a thank you with no sender. It passes, and nothing is required to replace it. In that moment, lucidity becomes ownerless awareness. Light without a lamp, sound without a listener, love without an object. You open your eyes. The street is still noisy, cars still move. A young person laughs at a song. An elderly man guides his grandchild across the road. Everything is as before, and yet entirely different. For within the noise you hear silence. Within motion you see stillness, and between you and the world, you know there was never a line. You walk slowly, not intentionally slow, simply without urgency. Each step feels like placing your foot onto a star. Each glance feels like returning one to the sky. And then, as a private ceremony without a name, you whisper not in words, and not addressed to anyone. There is no dreamer. There is no dream. There is only light, aware of being light. That is enough. No ending required. Light does not conclude. It simply continues being clear. Lucidity is not knowing more, it is needing less to recognize the whole.